All right, so buckle up, everyone, because today we're going deep.
Deep.
Yeah, deep into a really pivotal period in Chinese history.
Oh, yeah.
The Qing Dynasty,
Cues.
the rise and fall, the whole 9 yards,
That's
and
whole.
the whole thing, and how it all connects to the China we know today.
I think a lot of times we focus on like ancient China.
Yeah.
We kind of forget
Yeah.
that, the Qing Dynasty
Right.
brings us right up to the edge of modern times, really.
It does.
Its legacy is still felt. I mean, you see it.
Huge in their politics, in their economy,
Yeah.
in global ambitions.
Huge impact.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
Absolutely.
Because we're not just talking about ancient history here. We're talking about
Right.
the foundation of a modern superpower.
For sure.
And we've got a fantastic guide for this journey.
Yeah.
Jonathan D. Spence's
Spence, yeah.
The Search for Modern China,
Great book.
along with some maps, illustrations,
Oh, that's helpful.
and even a glossary to help us make sense of it all.
That's great.
So consider this your express ticket, your crash course
Yeah.
to understanding the events that shaped a nation.
What I love about Spence is,
Yeah.
it's not just like a dry recitation of dates and names.
Right.
He weaves in.
Oh, he's a storyteller.
He's a wonderful storyteller.
Yeah.
You get glimpses of daily life,
Oh, that's so cool.
the personalities of these emperors,
Mhm.
the whispers of dissent.
Yeah.
It's like history comes alive.
It does.
That's fantastic.
All right, so let's set the stage.
Okay.
It's the 17th century.
17th century. Yeah.
The Ming Dynasty is crumbling.
Crumbling.
And out of the chaos emerge the Manchus.
The Manchu.
These nomadic warriors from the Northeast, and they just sweep in
Yeah.
and establish the Qing Dynasty.
Yeah. I mean, it's a story of military prowess for sure,
Absolutely.
but also strategic alliances.
Right.
And this fascinating system of organization they had called banners.
The banners.
The banners, yeah.
So these banners were like,
It was a military and social unit.
oh, wow.
Really interesting.
And so not just the Manchus themselves,
No, not at all.
they incorporate it.
They incorporated Chinese
Oh, wow.
Mongol soldiers
Wow.
into these banners.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So they're incorporating the very people that they conquered
Yes.
into their military.
Absolutely.
That seems a little counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It might seem that way, but
Yeah.
if you think about it strategically,
Yeah.
it was brilliant
Yeah.
because it fostered this sense of, shared purpose.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It integrated these different ethnic groups into the empire.
Right.
So ultimately, it really strengthened their rule.
Wow.
It's fascinating.
That's a masterclass
Yeah.
in consolidation of power,
For sure.
But
Yeah.
okay, let's be realistic. Not everyone just rolled over
Oh, absolutely not.
and said, "Hey, welcome."
No, there was resistance.
There had to be resistance.
Yeah.
Tell me about the resistance.
Well, I mean, you had figures like the Prince of Fu,
Oh, yeah.
who desperately tried to hold on to,
Right.
remnants of Ming power.
Yeah.
It was a losing battle, obviously.
Yeah.
But his struggle and the Manchu response to it,
Yeah.
I think, really reveals
Oh,
a
interesting.
lot about the importance of loyalty.
Oh, yeah, in Chinese culture?
Absolutely. Loyalty
Huge.
to the emperor,
Yeah.
to the dynasty.
Right.
It wasn't just about land or power.
Right. It was about,
It was about ideology.
yeah,
It was about who had the mandate of heaven.
the mandate of heaven.
Yeah,
That's right.
to rule.
That's right.
It's fascinating.
Wow. So this shift in power
Yeah.
has profound implications.
Huge implication. I mean, for the whole intellectual landscape of China.
Absolutely. And Spence
cool.
introduces us to some really fascinating scholars.
Oh, cool.
Wang Zongxi, Gu Yanwu.
Okay.
These guys were grappling with
Yeah.
the very legitimacy of Manchu rule. Oh, wow.
They were exploring alternative models of governance,
Interesting.
questioning the nature of power.
That's so cool.
And really, they kind of laid the seeds of ideas
Yeah.
that would resonate for centuries.
So even as the Manchus are like,
Yeah.
okay, we're in charge, we're establishing ourselves.
Right. Well,
There's this like undercurrent of intellectual dissent,
absolutely.
of questioning, of like
Yeah.
exploring new ways.
It's a reminder
Yeah.
that history isn't just about, like, the emperors and the battles.
Right.
It's about these ideas that shape societies.
That shape societies. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so these ideas, they're taking root in a China
Yeah.
that has been dramatically reshaped by this conquest.
Absolutely. I mean, you had devastating wars.
Yeah.
Mass migrations.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole landscape of
Memories
history was
down.
shifting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the demographic impact.
Yeah.
Huge. And you can actually see this reflected
Yeah?
in some of the maps and illustrations we have.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
But, as Spence points out,
Yeah.
this upheaval also created new opportunities.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, the 18th century
Yes.
saw economic growth in many areas.
Okay.
People moved into these depopulated regions.
Right.
New industries emerged.
It's like the old saying,
Yeah.
out of chaos comes opportunity.
That's right. That's right.
Right. And so it's in this context
Yeah.
that we meet some of the most significant king emperors.
Right. We've got Kanki,
So
Yang
real.
Zheng, and of course,
The big one.
Qianlong.
Kid.
These three emperors, they ruled for
Over 130 years.
over 130 years.
a long time.
This period of, relative peace and prosperity.
Yeah, known as the High King.
The High King.
Yeah.
But each of these emperors
Oh, yeah.
had their own distinct style,
I think
and
it's it.
approach to governance.
Yeah. Very different personalities.
Yeah. All right. So let's unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
What set these emperors apart? Well, Kanchi, for instance.
Okay.
He was known for, his
Yeah.
efforts to try to integrate
Okay.
Manchu and Chinese cultures.
Oh, wow.
He also issued his famous Sacred Edict,
Yeah, the Sacred Edict.
a set of moral guidelines
Oh, interesting.
that were meant to, instruct the people.
Like laying down the law, but with...
Yeah, with the Confucian spin, exactly.
Yeah.
Then you've got Yang Zheng,
Okay, Yongzheng.
who comes along and he takes this idea of moral instruction
Right.
to a whole other level.
What do you mean?
I mean, he expands on the Sacred Edict,
Right.
turns these moral maxims
Yeah.
into these elaborate lectures
Wow.
that were delivered all the way down to the village level.
So it's not just about telling people do this, don't do that.
Right.
It's about...
It's about shaping their worldview,
Right.
their understanding of right and wrong
Wow.
from the top down.
So it's an early attempt, at
Yeah, you could call it ideological control.
ideological control. That's interesting.
I mean, it was a way of ensuring stability
Right.
by shaping the minds of the people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating.
And then you have Qianlong,
Qianlong. Yeah.
the grandson of Kangxi.
The grandson. Okay.
Now, he is a very interesting character.
Okay.
A warrior emperor
Yeah.
known for his military campaigns
Right.
that expanded the Qing Empire to its greatest extent.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he was a complex figure.
Yeah.
He was a skilled military leader,
Yeah.
but he also saw himself as a patron of the arts
Oh, interesting.
and a scholar.
Okay.
He commissioned the compilation of the Four Treasuries.
A four treasure.
Yeah, massive collection
Okay.
of Chinese literature and philosophy.
I mean, that just sounds like a monumental...
It was a monumental undertaking.
I mean, trying to gather every book, every scroll,
yeah, every piece of writing.
every piece of writing that represented Chinese culture.
It was an attempt to kind of,
Wow.
encapsulate the essence of Chinese culture.
It's like building a library of Alexandria for China.
Exactly, exactly.
But there's more to it than just preservation, isn't there?
Well, and here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
This project was also
Yeah.
a subtle form of censorship.
Oh, wow.
Works that were critical of Manchu rule,
Right.
that challenged the Qing dynasty's legitimacy. They were conveniently left out,
Wow.
suppressed, or even destroyed.
So under the guise of cultural preservation,
Yes,
there's this undercurrent of control,
absolutely. Control
gets a-
shaping the narrative.
shaping the narrative.
That's fascinating.
Qianlong's reign
Yeah.
was a time of great achievements,
Yeah.
but it also planted the seeds of some future problems.
Oh, how so?
Well, his military campaigns were costly.
Okay.
The empire was starting to experience economic strain,
Okay.
and the very size and diversity of the empire,
Yeah.
which he had expanded,
Yeah.
also created challenges.
Sounds like they're reaching their peak. Yeah, you could say that.
But the cracks are starting to show.
Absolutely.
Right, and those cracks,
Oh, yeah.
they're going to become impossible to ignore
Yeah.
as we move into the 19th century.
The 19th century, yeah.
Which leads us to our next chapter,
Okay.
where we'll explore
Yeah.
how the Qing dynasty faced a whole new set of challenges,
That's right.
both from within and from the rising power of the West.
The West is coming.
It's a story of clashing civilizations, internal rebellions,
Yeah.
and the beginning of what will become a very tumultuous century for China.
It's going to be a wild ride.
A wild ride indeed.
That's for sure.
We'll be back in a moment after a quick break.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, so we've seen the Qing dynasty,
Yeah.
rise to power, consolidate their rule,
Right.
even experience this period of relative peace and prosperity.
A high king.
The High King, exactly.
Play.
But as we move into the 19th century,
In the 8th century, things start to change.
things start to change, yeah.
The world is changing. And China is about to be swept up in this
Yeah, this tide of global force.
tide of global forces, exactly.
That will really shake its foundations.
This is really where China's long history of relative isolation comes to an end.
Yeah, they'd been pretty isolated up to this point,
Yeah, I mean, they had their own thing going on.
right?
But the West, fueled by the Industrial Revolution
Yeah, the West is on the rise.
and, imperial ambitions, they're knocking on China's door.
They're knocking.
And the Qing dynasty is just, they're ill-prepared.
They're not ready for this.
No, not at all.
It's almost like this collision of two worlds,
It is. It's a clash of civilizations.
Two very different ways of thinking about power, trade.
Yeah, the nature of civilization itself.
And this clash, this is perfectly encapsulated
Yeah.
in the Opium War.
The Opium War.
Yeah, I think a lot of times the Opium War is portrayed as this simple conflict over trade.
Over trade, yeah.
But I think it's so much more than that,
Oh, absolutely.
It's about...
It's about clashing worldviews.
Yeah.
It's about the limits of king power
Yeah.
and the beginning of what some historians call
Yeah.
China's century of humiliation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So let's break that down a little bit
Okay.
for our listener.
Yeah.
What were the underlying tensions that led to this war?
Well, on the one hand, you've got Great Britain,
Okay, Britain.
who's looking for new markets
Yeah.
for its manufactured goods.
Right.
And they see China as this vast, untapped potential.
This huge market just waiting.
Exactly. But China,
Yeah.
under the Qing dynasty,
Right.
they have a very different view.
Oh, how so?
They're largely self-sufficient.
Right.
They have this traditional system of trade,
Right.
and they're not particularly interested.
They're not really interested in what the West has to offer,
Not really, no.
except for one thing.
Ah, yes, except for opium.
Opium.
Yeah, so Britain, through its East India Company,
Yeah, the East India Company.
had been cultivating opium in India
Right.
and smuggling it into China,
Wow.
creating this massive addiction problem.
And draining China's silver reserve.
Draining their silver reserves, exactly.
So the Qing government,
Yeah.
understandably, they want to stop this trade.
Of course, they're trying to protect their people.
Spence really highlights the role of Commissioner Lin Zexu.
Lin Zexu, yes.
He was tasked with cracking down on this opium trade.
He was, yeah.
And it's interesting, he tries to appeal to the British
Oh,
on moral grounds,
Mm.
emphasizing the harm
the harm is causing.
that opium is causing to Chinese society.
It's a really fascinating approach
It is.
because it really reveals this Confucian worldview
Right.
that still shaped Qing thinking at the time.
They're still operating in this Confucian framework.
Exactly. They believe in moral suasion,
Right.
appealing to people's sense of virtue.
Right.
But they really underestimated
Yeah.
the economic and imperial ambitions of the British.
And their military might.
And their military mights.
They had the guns.
They did.
And the
You
ships.
had the technology.
So the British,
Yeah.
with their superior naval technology and firepower.
They easily defeated the Qing forces.
Yeah. It wasn't even close.
And the resulting Treaty of Nanjing in 1842.
Yeah. The Treaty of
A
Nanjing.
humiliating blow to China.
Oh, I bet.
They were forced to cede Hong Kong to Britain,
Hong Kong.
open more ports to foreign trade,
Wow.
grant extraterritoriality to British citizens.
Which means they're subject to British law,
British law, not Chinese law.
not Chinese law in
Right.
China.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's not just about losing a war.
No.
It's about losing control.
Losing control, yeah.
It's about having your sovereignty just completely undermined.
It's a turning point.
It's a watershed moment.
A real watershed moment.
And it sets the stage for decades of foreign encroachment
Decades of foreign encroachment.
on China's sovereignty.
Yeah, it's really the beginning of a difficult period for China.
And as if dealing with this external pressure wasn't enough,
Right.
the Qing dynasty was also facing all these internal challenges.
Oh, absolutely. This is where the Taiping Rebellion comes in.
The Taiping Rebellion, yeah.
One of the deadliest conflicts in human history.
Really?
It's a really complex event.
Okay.
Fueled by, social unrest,
Okay.
economic grievances,
Right.
and this really unique religious vision.
I have to admit, the story of Hong Xiquan,
Hong Xiuan, yeah.
he was the leader of the Taiping Rebellion.
He was, yeah.
It's mind-boggling. This guy claimed to be the younger brother of Jesus Christ
It's wild, I know.
and led this massive uprising
Yeah.
that nearly toppled the Qing dynasty.
Nearly toppled him. It was a close one.
This guy's blend of Christianity
Yeah.
and traditional Chinese beliefs.
It was a potent mix.
Really?
It resonated with millions of people.
People who were suffering under Qing rule.
Absolutely, they were suffering.
And he promised this radical transformation of society.
He did. He promised a utopia.
A utopia. Like,
An egalitarian social order.
Okay.
An end to poverty and oppression.
It sounds almost apocalyptic, you know?
It was a powerful message,
Yeah.
especially for the peasantry.
Right. The peasantry who were burdened by
Taxes.
corruption. Yeah. Just the sense that the Qing dynasty had lost its mandate of heaven.
Exactly. They felt like the Qing dynasty was no longer legitimate.
So this Taiping Rebellion, it wasn't just some like small-scale peasant revolt.
No, this was huge.
They established their own capital in Nanjing.
They did in Nanjing.
And they controlled vast swaths of territory for over a decade.
For over a decade, yeah.
It took a Herculean effort for the king to finally put down this rebellion.
It did. I mean, the Qing dynasty was on the brink of collapse.
So how did they manage to survive?
Well, it's fascinating. You see these figures like Zheng Guofan emerge, who not only led the Qing forces against the Taipings,
Right.
but he also recognized the need for modernization.
So even in the midst of this internal chaos,
Yeah,
there's this recognition that China needs to change.
absolutely. They need to adapt.
To adapt to this new world.
They can't stay isolated anymore.
And so Zheng Guofan and others,
Yeah.
they start to adopt Western military technology.
They do. They start building arsenals.
Yeah, training their troops in new tactics.
Yeah, it's an early example of this tension
Content between.
between embracing Western modernization,
Okay.
but also trying to preserve Chinese culture and identity.
Right, that tension between like modernizing
Yeah,
but not becoming Western.
exactly.
And that tension is only going to grow
Oh, yeah.
as we move further into the 19th century.
It's going to get more intense.
The Opium War and the Taiping Rebellion.
Right.
This was just the beginning.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
So the Qing dynasty is battered,
Battered, yeah.
but not broken.
Not broken yet.
But the challenges, they
Yeah.
keep coming.
They keep coming.
Internal rebellions.
You got the Nananian Rebellion, various Muslim uprisings.
And externally,
Externally, the Western powers are demanding more concessions.
oh, they're not letting up.
No, they're carving up China into spheres of influence.
It's like the Qing dynasty is being squeezed from all sides.
They're in a tough spot.
So what's next? How do they respond?
Well, that's what we'll delve into next.
Okay.
Explore those late Qing reforms,
Okay.
the rise of revolutionary movements,
Okay.
and ultimately, the fall of the dynasty.
And the birth of a new China.
Exactly. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've gone from the Manchu conquest through the grandeur of the High King and right into this world in upheaval in the 19th century with all these pressures, internal and external, bearing down on the Qing dynasty.
Yeah, and I think at this point, they're really at a crossroads.
Oh, crossroads.
Like adapt or perish.
Wow.
The reforms they try to implement in the late 19th century.
Yeah.
It was a last-ditch effort to modernize,
It's not nice.
to catch up with the West,
Right.
to somehow, salvage their dwindling power.
This is what Spence calls the self-strengthening movement.
The self-strengthening movement, yeah.
I mean, it sounds like they're trying to
Yeah.
pull themselves up by their bootstraps,
Exactly.
to reconcile these ancient traditions with the demands of this modernizing world.
It's this fascinating mix of pragmatism and, cultural anxiety.
I mean, think about figures like Young Wing,
Young Wing.
one of the first Chinese students to graduate from a Western university.
Yeah, Yale. He goes to Yale, comes back to China,
Wow.
and he plays this key role in establishing
Yeah.
modern arsenals, shipyards.
They're trying to build their own industrial base.
Yeah, they realize they've fallen behind.
Right. And even a translation bureau to bring in Western knowledge.
They know they need to learn from the West.
So they're trying to learn from the West. They're trying to adopt the technology.
All right.
But are they also trying to maintain their own,
Absolutely. That's the dilemma, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to modernize
Why-
without westernizing, if that makes sense.
modernize but not Westernize?
They're borrowing the tools of the West,
Yeah.
but they're not necessarily embracing Western values.
Right. Right.
or political systems.
Okay, and amidst all this change,
Yeah.
there's this new idea coming in from Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Social Darwinism.
Social Darwinism.
And this is going to have a profound impact.
Huge impact.
On Chinese intellectuals.
Yeah, I mean, this idea of survival of the fittest.
Right.
It really resonated with them. They were grappling with China's weakened state.
Right, and they're seeing the West kind of rise in power.
They're feeling the pressure.
And so they're like, okay, maybe we need to evolve.
Exactly. Thinkers like Yan Fu.
Yan Fu.
He translated these works of Western political thought.
Okay.
And he argued that, look, China needs to evolve.
Yeah.
We need to become stronger.
Right.
Or we're going to get swallowed up.
Swallowed up by the West.
Exactly.
It's like this wake-up call.
It is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
We can't afford to be complacent anymore.
Yeah.
We've got to adapt.
I have to adapt, or we're going to be left behind.
Or
worse. Yeah.
Conquer.
Exactly.
And the pressures just keep mounting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you had the Sino-Japanese War in 1894.
The Sino-Japanese War, okay.
China loses to Japan.
Oh, wow.
A country that they've, traditionally seen as inferior.
A tributary state.
Exactly. It's a major blow to their pride.
I'll bet.
To their prestige. And it really exposes the weakness of the Qing military.
Okay, so they're trying to reform. They're trying to modernize.
Yeah, but at the same time...
They're facing these humiliations. These losses.
Right.
And it's fueling unrest.
Unrest.
Within China.
Within China.
Yeah, you see this in the Boxer Rebellion.
The Boxer Rebellion, right? This
anti-foreign uprising.
Fueled by this anti-foreign sentiment.
And this belief in these magical powers.
Right, like they could repel bullets.
It's a desperate attempt to expel foreign influence.
But it backfires.
It does. It's brutally suppressed.
Brutally suppressed by a coalition of Western powers.
Leading to even more concessions.
Oh, man.
More humiliation for China.
It's like this cycle of decline.
Yeah.
They get weaker, more vulnerable to foreign pressure.
Right.
They lose legitimacy in the eyes of their own people.
It's a downward spiral.
It's like, where does it end?
Well, out of this turmoil, new voices emerge.
New voices like who?
Figures like Sun Yat-sen.
Sun Yat-sen.
He starts advocating for, like the overthrow of the Qing dynasty.
Wow, so it's not just about reforming the system anymore.
No, at this point, it's about starting over.
Starting over.
Creating a new China.
New China.
Sun Yat-sen and his Revolutionary Alliance.
Yeah.
They're inspired by Western ideals of democracy.
Democracy.
Nationalism.
Okay.
They believe that China needs to modernize...
Not just its technology.
But its political system as well.
Right, and their efforts culminate in the 1911 Revolution.
The 1911 Revolution.
Which finally brings then to the Qing dynasty.
The end of an era.
Over 2,000 years of imperial rule.
Just swept away.
It's a monumental turning point.
It is, but as Spence points out,
yeah,
the revolution is just the beginning of a whole new set of challenges.
Oh, how's that?
I mean, the fall of the Qing doesn't magically lead to stability or democracy.
Right.
China plunges into this period of political fragmentation,
lordism,
ongoing foreign intervention.
So it's like the old order has collapsed, but there's no clear vision for what's going to replace it.
Exactly. It's a power vacuum.
A power vacuum, and everyone's trying to grab for it.
Exactly.
And into this chaotic landscape steps a new force, the Chinese Communist Party.
The CCP.
Founded in 1921.
This is where things really take a dramatic turn.
It's another turning point.
Yeah, these early leaders of the CCP, they're deeply influenced by Marxism.
Marxism, okay.
And the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia.
Oh, wow. So they're looking to Russia as a model.
In a way, yeah.
Wow.
They see China's vast peasantry as the key to revolutionary change.
Right.
And they believe that a communist revolution is the only way to truly modernize China.
Okay.
And break free from this foreign domination.
So we've gone from like centuries-old dynasty to a fledgling republic to a communist movement gaining traction.
It's a whirlwind of change.
It really is. I mean, it's hard to keep up.
And it's a story of alliances and betrayals.
Oh, how so?
Well, the CCP initially forms this united front with the Kuomintang.
The Kuomintang.
The Nationalist Party, led by Chiang Kai-shek.
Chiang Kai-shek, okay.
They believe they have a common enemy.
Right. In the warlords and the foreign powers.
Exactly. But this alliance is fragile.
Okay.
It eventually breaks down.
It breaks down.
Leading to this brutal civil war.
And this is where Mao Zedong comes in.
Mao Zedong.
Yeah, he really emerges as this leading figure in the CCP.
He does, a brilliant strategist, but ruthless politician.
And he will play a pivotal role.
Absolutely pivotal.
In shaping the future of China.
His ideas about peasant revolution, guerrilla warfare,
Right.
this protracted struggle,
Yeah.
they become the guiding principles of the CCP.
And these ideas are really put to the test
Oh, yeah.
during the Long March.
A long march.
This epic retreat.
Epic retreat, yeah. By
The CCP forces.
escaping the Gumandang army.
The Long March, I mean, it's such a pivotal moment.
It is. It's a story of incredible hardship, endurance,
Yeah.
and, a lot of internal purges and power
A
struggles.
lot of internal turmoil.
Yeah, but Mao emerges from this as the undisputed leader of the CCP.
So the Long March really solidifies his leadership.
It does. And it allows the CCP to establish this new base
Okay, where?
in Yan'an, in this remote region.
Okay.
They regroup, they rebuild.
They prepare for the final showdown.
The final showdown with the Gumandang.
And that showdown comes after World War II.
Yeah.
China's exhausted, devastated by years of war.
But they're plunged back into civil war.
Wow, it's relentless.
And the CCP, with its disciplined army, its message of land reform,
Yeah.
national liberation,
Right.
they ultimately triumph.
They triumph over the Gumandang.
Who were seen as corrupt and ineffective.
So 1949.
1949.
Hezedong.
He stands atop Tiananmen Square
Wow.
and proclaims the founding of the People's Republic of China.
Wow. It's the end of one era and the beginning of another.
A truly momentous occasion.
And it will have repercussions.
Absolutely.
Not just for China, but for the whole world.
The People's Republic under Mao,
Yeah.
they embark on this really ambitious program
Okay.
of socialist transformation.
So they collectivize agriculture,
Yeah.
nationalize industry.
They launch these mass campaigns.
Yeah, like the Great Leap Forward.
Great leap forward.
Aimed at rapidly industrializing China.
Exactly, trying to catch up with the West.
But these efforts,
Yeah.
they come at a tremendous human cost.
They do. The Great Leap Forward in particular
Yeah.
leads to widespread famine and economic disaster.
It's like taking one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah, it was a really difficult period.
And then, of course, there's the Cultural Revolution,
The Cultural Revolution,
a decade of political turmoil and social upheaval.
a very dark chapter in Chinese history.
I mean, it's a time of intense ideological fervor,
Yeah.
political purges, violence.
Mao unleashes the Red Guards,
The Red Guards, these young people who are just like,
fanatically enforcing his vision of revolutionary purity.
it's a period of just profound trauma for China.
And its legacy is still debated today.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But out of the ashes of the Cultural Revolution
Yeah.
emerges a new leader,
Deng Xiaoping.
a much more pragmatic figure.
Okay.
He sets China on this path of economic liberalization,
Economic liberalization.
opening up to the world.
So he launches the four modernizations:
The four modernization,
agriculture, industry, national defense, science, and technology.
Deng's reforms.
Yeah.
They really transform China.
They do. They lead to this unprecedented economic growth.
Unprecedented growth.
And millions are lifted out of poverty.
But this economic liberalization isn't accompanied by political reform.
So they're growing economically, but they
Yeah.
remain a one-party state.
Under the control of the CCP.
And that tension between, like, economic freedom
Yeah.
and political control, that persists to this day.
It's one of the defining characteristics of modern China.
Absolutely.
Something that anyone who wants to understand China
Yeah.
needs to really grapple with.
So there we have it.
From the rise of the Manchus
To the fall of the Qing dynasty,
to the birth of the People's Republic.
we've witnessed centuries of upheaval, revolution.
Transformation.
It's a story that's epic in scope, full of fascinating characters, and I think it really gives us a glimpse
It's.
into the China of today.
I think you're right. And as we've seen
Yeah.
China's journey,
Yeah.
it's far from over.
It's not over.
The legacy of the Qing dynasty,
Yeah.
the echoes of the revolution,
Right.
the impact of Deng Xiaoping's reforms.
It continues to shape China's trajectory
Absolutely.
in the 21st century.
For sure.
Well, if this deep dive has piqued your interest,
Yeah.
we encourage you to keep exploring this fascinating history.
Absolutely.
The more you learn about China's past,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to understand its present.
And its future.
And its future, a future that's,
Yeah.
increasingly intertwined with our own
Absolutely.
in countless ways.
That's right.
So that's it for our deep dive into the Qing dynasty.
A fascinating journey.
Until next time.
See you then.